All right. Before we start, I just want to take time to extend my condolences and thoughts and prayers to the University of Virginia's football team, their program, and everyone that's hurting right now. I can't imagine, as a parent of three, I can't imagine the loss that they're feeling as a team. We've experienced loss similar, but not the same circumstance by any means. Is that program right now? I want them to know and everyone to know that we're really thinking about them and sending prayers their way. Building it, into this next week, obviously our guys were anxious to get back to work. I think we all had a taste in our mouth that we were ready to get out of our mouth, right? Ready to go back and attack things. This weekend certainly didn't go the way we anticipated. Like I said after the game, that really falls solely on me. Super proud of our fans and the commitment they had to that game. I think that's going to continue to be something really special. We get an opportunity here with senior day for our seniors to get their last home game played here. In that experience, our fans have an opportunity to create a big impact in a game like this. So thrilled for that moment for them. Excited for our seniors to be able to go out there on the field again and play really well.
Start off here on the right with Zach.
I was wondering if you have an update on a few guys like Bo, Alex, and Ryan.
Yeah, I'm not going to share really any update with anybody. We came away dinged in that game. I will say that I feel a lot more positive today, getting to hear some news on where things are at right now.
We'll go right here, James.
The television audience got a little bit of a different perspective on the last couple of minutes, and some of us were down on the field at that point. They saw that Bo came over to you, and then Chief is following up before the fourth down. When did Chief tell you that he was cleared to return, and why not call timeout before the fourth down to put Bo back in the game?
Yeah, we just talked right when it happened. Bo said, "Coach, I feel good." I said, "Let me confirm." Ryan, I said, "You'll go in the next play," and why not call a timeout? Really, in retrospect, I wish I would have called a timeout based on the look we got, not so much just to get Bo in. But it's really easy to go back and replay the game in your head. There's probably 10 plays that I would have played a lot different, right? And it's not so much about necessarily putting Bo in that situation. They had a really advantageous look for what we gave, and wish I could have called a timeout more so than anything for that look.
Second row in the middle, Eric.
How would you describe, I guess, Ty's demeanor coming in a really challenging spot?
Yeah, it's a tough spot to go in, but that's why you do all the practice reps, why you do all the walk reps. I think Ty was anxious to go out there and compete for his team, and that's why you always have to be ready and ready to roll.
All the way in the back.
You often talk about going to the doctor early in the week for players and coaches. Just curious for you, what do you think are the biggest overall lessons you're going to take away from this game as a head coach?
Oh man, there's so many. There's so many things that I wish I could go back and do different. There's some moments where I felt like I got a little selfish and looking for something that I felt like was there, and really at the opportunity time it wasn't. And medicine doesn't always taste good. Right, and that's one thing we talked to our players about today. There was a lot of coaches drinking medicine yesterday, right, and Sunday in that office. And you know what? It doesn't always taste good, but you better be able to accept it and attack it. And there's a lot of things that me personally as a coach, myself, that I can go do better. There's a lot of things that our coaching staff can do better, and a lot of things that our players can do better. And I think when you're in an environment where it's about growth, we've actually experienced something similar before where it didn't go the way we wanted it to go, and our guys attacked it really well, and our coaches attacked it really well. And the only thing I know to do when something doesn't go right is go to work. And that's kind of always worked for me, right? So Saturday night when the game was over, as much as I felt like going in the back room and not spending any time with anybody, you know what I did? I went and recruited, right? And then Sunday morning, I got my ass up really early and got every ounce of film graded, and then did what? Some more recruiting, right? And then did some evaluations of our performance and did a quality control report on what we can do better and how we can be better. And then that night, guess what we were doing more of? Recruiting, right? And finding opportunities to make our program better, touching base with our players, looking for ways for us to grow. So, again, the result was not what we wanted. You have to give them credit for doing a good job, and you have to look. It's called hard facts, man. It's the hard truths. You got to look at the things that you could have done better as a coach to prepare our team and perform better in that environment. So a lot of opportunities for growth, and I'm certainly going to attack it.
Back right.
College football is always very emotional roller coaster. A lot of highs, and then can sometimes crash really fast. How have you managed the emotions of this the last couple of days and the next couple of days before Utah? Just the emotional aspect of a loss and what came with it, the ramifications of that.
I'm a bad loser, man. I don't ever handle it very well, and it's something I can continue to grow at. But that hasn't changed since third grade PE class, right? Like I don't like losing. I don't like losing if I'm playing checkers against Titan, my 9-year-old right now, right? I want to win at everything that I do, and losing is always a lot harder than winning. The benefit of winning doesn't compare close to the feeling of losing. So I'm never going to be great at that, but I know this. I'm not, we didn't let Georgia beat us twice. I'm not going to let Washington beat us twice, right? We play them once, right? I'm not going to let that happen. My focus is we got to go play a really dang good Utah team, and probably one of the most complete teams that we've played this season. And you're not going to do that by, crying over spilt milk.
James?
If Jeff's hit is targeting on technique, which I understand, then why is Wood's hit on Bo not targeting on technique? And is that not a byproduct of the targeting penalty in that defenders are going to aim their strike zone that much lower?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I'm still waiting on feedback from our conference and some of the plays that we set in, so I can't speak to everything on that. We haven't gotten those results back yet, but yeah, you certainly would love consistent interpretation of that, and I think our conference tries to do a good job of that.
Middle Eric?
Having looked at it on film, I'm curious on the 62-yard touchdown. Was that any coverage mistakes there? Or is that just a really good throw and Bennett takes an angle on it?
Yeah, there certainly are things that we could have done better. I think there's places where we can provide more relief. It was a great throw. I think he was on point all night. He threw some great throws, but I think there's also some opportunities for us to look at those coverages and figure out some ways that we can improve it. The biggest thing is they recognize the look that we're in, and we weren't able to kill out of that look and change our call, and that's something we got to certainly do better. And then we have to play with better technique when we get the opportunity. We'd love to be able to roll a safety over there. We were trying to get that done, didn't quite get there, and obviously you see the result.
All right, Zach.
I know that Utah isn't technically a rival for you guys like Oregon State or Washington, but based on the way that last year ended, I know that a lot of guys in that locker room care a lot about this game. How is your feeling for, what their feeling is going to this game, how much it means to them?
Yeah, I think this game means a ton, and I think our guys are playing for each other, and they want to do well for each other. That this team really cares about each other, which is important. And I think they all have a taste in their mouth from last season. Some of the guys weren't here, and some guys were, but they want to go perform. They want to go perform, to their abilities.
James?
You mentioned some hard truths, Dan. When you're one of 4 teams in the country to allow 9 yards of play in 2 games this season, third down, pass defense, pass rush have all been what they've been now for 10 solid weeks. What is the fix? How do you go about addressing it? Will you take over defensive play calling?
Yeah, no, I've got belief in our coaches. I've got belief in our players, and I've been a part of situations that were tough. What's the hard truth? We're not playing well on defense right now. I don't think it takes a lot of people to look at that and see it. What's hard maybe for some people in this room to see and people outside to see is there's some things that we're really close at, and you look at the first third down and you're like, wow, you have a free runner at the quarterback. Got to be able to finish there, right? You look at an opportunity to maintain leverage properly. And what I've always learned in situations where you're not having success is it's easier to point fingers and try to say, well, this guy didn't do his job right. But I've always been a thumb pointer, right? And there's parts that I can do better. There's parts that our coaching staff can do better. And there's certainly parts that our players can do better. But we're probably closer than some of you think. It being there, right? That being said, it's not acceptable, right? It's not something that we accept in our program. We want to play better than we're playing. And the way that I understand how to do that is to go work. And even though the result doesn't always change, that doesn't mean you can't change your approach. And I'm going to continue to look for ways to change the approach as we move forward.
Back right back.
How do you manage when guys are hurt and they may be able to play this week? How do you manage getting them reps, but also if they can't go, getting the guy who's behind them ready to go and feel comfortable to play on a Saturday?
Yeah, it's always a tough thing, but for us, we spend a lot of time developing players in our program, so we get a lot of reps, but really with our 1s and our 2 groups, so that those guys get a lot of benefited reps. That being said, when it comes to player safety, you always want to make sure you take care of your guys first and put them in the best position to be successful. I'm always going to think about our players before I put them in a situation that they're not safe. But we get a lot of reps with our 1s and our 2s with the way we have our practice structured.
Eric, middle.
What does Utah do well? What's kind of this early scout on those guys?
Yeah, they're very unique. I'll probably start off defensively. They're one of the more aggressive teams, obviously, in our conference. They'll 6-man pressure, 5-man pressure, over 28% of the time, which is a really high percentage. For a team, they'll challenge you. They'll blitz zero, on either side of the 50. They play with relentless effort, right? That they pursue. And they're obviously smart. They're well coached. You see the technique show up consistently. So they're really good. On offense, it's a West Coast offense at times that can really pound the ball. They're going to hop into some unique personnel groups. They'll get in 14, 13, 12 personnel and run it down your throat. And then when you become too aggressive, they'll hit you over top. Their quarterback, I can't say enough good things about, is a relentless competitor. He makes it tick for him. He can get them in great run checks, understands what defensive look he's looking at, and is really able to take advantage of it, right? He's, a smooth operator, and he plays with great toughness. It's like he's a linebacker playing quarterback. So they got a really good team. They do a lot of things really well. I think they're one of the best coach teams in our conference. I think Coach has done a really good job there for a long time.
Right here on the right, Zach.
Kind of going off that, Coach Whittingham is a very well-established and well-respected coach in the Pac-12. I wonder if you've had a chance to talk with him or meet with him and kind of your opinion on how he's been able to build Utah into such a well-respected program in this conference.
Yeah, I've followed him from a distance for a long time. As a coach that just has admiration for the way that he handles his business. When I was at Georgia as the defensive coordinator, we actually crossovered with their staff and met with them defensively. We always look for other teams that did some things that we thought were good and figure out ways to link up. So we met with their entire defensive staff, and they do a lot of stuff. It's innovative, it's different, but I have a lot of respect for what they do, and I have a lot of respect for Kyle and the job that he's done there.
Couple of things on the DBs. To Bennett specifically, I understand trying to put one of your best players into as many positions as possible, but he's been burned several times now in pass coverage against some slot receivers where he is by nature a box safety, run support guy inside there. Is that the best position for him to be put in coverage, for one? And two, he typified a situation where they went from one hash to the out against 3 or 4 different guys. Is there leverage and understanding of leverage and geometry here in terms of those are supposed to be high probability situations for your guys?
Well, give me your question again. You have a lot of details there. What's the question?
Do the cornerbacks, when they're playing outside leverage, do they have an understanding of what it is that they're supposed to be executing on some of those plays? And in Bennett, in those spots, is he being put in the best position to succeed?
Yeah, ultimately when a team plays with, 5 guys that can catch the ball, you got to put people somewhere, right? And you've seen us. We've shuffled guys around this season. We played Arizona. We played different people in the slot. And going back, there's a lot of ways you can go back and say, hey, we look at some opportunities to do some things differently. At the end of the day, you certainly have to own your leverage. If you're supposed to play a certain leverage, you have to own it. And I think Bennett owns that, just like every one of our players. We're always looking to put our players in the position that's most advantageous for them and our success. You look early in the season and you'll say, wow, they were hurt a lot on screen game, and you need a bigger body out there, a guy that plays the screens well. And then you also want somebody that can play slot cover really well, and now you want somebody that can really blitz. And the reality is not every one of those players is going to be elite at each one of those things. You have to find what each guy does well. What I know is Bennett Williams cares, right? And we got a lot of people in that room that care, and they want to do a good job, and they want to do their job. And Bennett's done nothing but try to execute everything that we've asked him to do. Could he do it better? Yeah. Could our corners do better at times? Could our safeties do better? Absolutely. Could our coaches do better? Absolutely. So I'm not going to come in here and point fingers at each player. We got to find opportunities to put our players in the best position to be successful, and we're not doing that well enough, right? That's the hard truth, right? You obviously can see it, right? You're tied into it. I can see that, right? We have to get better. But I'm not going to sit here and let it beat me twice. I'm going to try to figure out a solution.
Back right, Matt.
Alex's injury and then Walk also in the first half. I don't think people really realize you were down maybe your third center in the last possession. Just how did JPJ do? And it's a lot of bodies that you're not having out there that are out there along the offensive line and some backups having to play. Just what do you make of the depth you have to maybe have to play more of that this week against Utah?
Yeah, again, feeling better about our health this week. That being said, that's why you practice, right? That's why you go through so many situations. That's why you have your third guy at center take snaps and practice that throughout the week. But as we all know, when you practice at multiple positions, right, it makes it harder for you to develop at one. So I'm proud of the guys that got plugged into some situations, some tough situations, getting thrown in the fourth quarter somewhere different, having to snap in that environment and in a unique spot is certainly a challenge. I think our guys handled that challenge well, and just like me, I know several of them wish one play would have gone one way or another.
Second row middle, Eric.
What was the range you were comfortable sending Camden out for a field goal at the end there? How close were you to pulling the trigger? How far did you have to get?
Yeah, obviously we tried the one at the end of the first half, and that was a little bit too far. We felt like we needed a few more yards there. That probably gives you a good frame of reference about how far we would try it. It's something we debated, and we have to felt like if Troy's catch would have been ruled differently, that we would have been in position to where we had a chance. Obviously, that didn't go our way.
Going back into the back.
You kind of went into how you've handled the last couple of days. What's your sense of how the defensive back group how have they attacked the last couple of days? What's kind of the overall mood of that room right now?
Less work, right? Just like our team's mood, right? Because I think everyone wants to point at certain pieces of this game. There was a lot of pieces that could have affected this game, right? A decision to onside kick it, right? A fumble in the red area, right? Poor performance on third down. Like there's a lot of belief in this room that each one of us can do something better. Right? And I think that's just like our DB's focus is, hey, what can we improve on? What can we get better at? Everybody in our organization is saying right now, how can we make the Ducks better?
Last question, back right, Matt.
With it being senior day, how do you just handle the COVID year? There's going to be a lot of seniors that have that COVID extra year of eligibility if they want to come back. I guess how many guys are you honoring, and how do you have that conversation with players about coming back potentially for a fifth year?
Yeah. Right now, I think we have 18 guys. I won't go through the entire list. I think we have 18 guys that are going to participate as seniors. Some of those guys are going to participate and then come back and play next year, right? Some guys aren't participating and maybe not be here next year. There's a reality of that as well. So if you want to be honored as a senior this year, we want to give you the opportunity to do that. I'm anticipating some of those guys that are going to be honored as seniors still coming back, and maybe we get to honor them again. That'd be kind of cool, right? I don't know what you would call that then. Right, freshman, senior, super senior, yeah. So I don't know if they get something special, but those guys deserve the opportunity to be honored. Some guys, they could have been honored and said, "Coach, I'm coming back. I don't want to be honored," right? And some guys said, "Hey, Coach, I'm coming back, but I'd like to be." So that's in their court, and I want to give those guys that opportunity to do that.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate you guys.
Can you mute those? Yeah. Tim?